you don't. Rather, you say, I'm comfy. I'm relaxed. I'm at ease. Now, other people might say to you, are you comfortable? But they say that when you're sick, right? Or when you look worried. Or perhaps if they feel that you should be doing something that you're not doing. So they're checking in. Are you comfortable? But that's not sort of like a term that we would use on ourselves, like, I am comfortable. No, not that phrase. We're comfy, we're at ease, we're settled, we're relaxed. The question I want to ask you is, are you ever really comfortable? Or are you confusing that term perhaps with something else? Like being familiar. We know it, so we must be comfortable, right? But are you just being familiar? Let's think for a minute. What about that holy shirt? You know, the one with holes that you constantly bring out over the weekend, put it on, and you're always wearing it. And, my husband has a shirt like that, and it's on Saturdays. And then we end up going to the supermarket, and I realize, oh my goodness, he's got that shirt on, the one with the holes. Think back to February this year. Our King Charles, took his shoes off. I'm sure he wasn't expecting that to happen, and you won't believe it. Holy socks. Yeah, he had a hole in his sock. Why do we cling to things? Because they are familiar. Why do we keep wearing these things? I have a winter pair of slippers. I absolutely love these slippers. Had them for years, but they got a hole in them. And every winter I moan about how the cold air is getting in through that hole. I mean, I could adjust it, cut it, make it work, make them into slippers that I could wear in winter and in summer. But the question is, will they still be fit for purpose? When does comfortable become not fit for purpose? Do you perhaps have to just revisit your purpose? Another question you can ask yourself, are you comfortable or are you just settled? You know what? I've been doing this job for what? 30, 40 years? I know it like the back of my hand. I know the company, I know the industry, I know the people. Of course I'm comfortable. No. I think maybe you might just be settled. Do you have a chair in your house that's just designated for you? When you sit down to dinner at the table, is that your particular chair? What happens if you came home one day and somebody else was in that chair? Does it upset you a little bit? Another question you can ask yourself is, am I comfortable or am I just complacent? Sometimes we become very precious about the things that we can do. We think that we are the only people who can do them. We think that we're irreplaceable. We think that we are just doing ourselves. I am me. I'm just being me. This is how I am. Is that how you really are? Or have you just adopted that because it's easier? We always think of comfort as a positive state, but it can very quickly or very deceitfully or very slowly become quite negative. When is comfort negative? When the fear of change sets in. Do you panic when change is inevitable? Comfort can become negative when you can do what you are doing with your eyes closed because you're not being challenged. Comfort can become negative when it becomes a habit that isn't moving you towards your goal. Comfort can become negative when you minimize what you do or what you say. It's nothing. I do it all the time. Comfort becomes negative when you stop caring. When you become bored, or when those little frustrations creep in and you become irritable and everything starts annoying you. Comfort becomes extremely bad for you when you start becoming angry with what you do every day. Why should you move out of the comfort zone? Comfort doesn't promote growth. Remember, nobody stands still. If you're not growing, you're digressing. Don't be deceived into thinking that you're just coasting, because one day you'll discover you're coasting in the wrong direction. Comfort doesn't let you learn anything new, nor does it inspire you or encourage you to take action. How can you get out of this comfort zone? Well, first of all, you got to know where you are. You got to acknowledge that you are comfortable. In Map for Life, we have 8 areas of life that we like to look at: spiritual, intellectual, physical, our relationships, business, finance, social, rest. Take those 8 areas and assess where you are right now and acknowledge the areas that you have become comfortable in. And then decide where you want to be and how you want to move out of the comfort zone. What is your goal, your end destination, your plan? Then create that plan. So you're going to identify the areas you want to improve on or change. And then you're going to identify small changes that you're going to make every day. You're going to change your habits. You're going to stop doing certain things and you're going to start doing others. You're going to do less of some things and you're going to be doing more of others. You're going to be learning new skills. And you're going to reward yourself every day for those little changes that you make. And in the evening, before you go to bed, you're going to see and the progress that you've made. And you're going to know that you are unique and that you can change. Now, some people will say, nah, I'm definitely comfortable. I enjoy the position I'm in. I don't want to change. If you believe that you fall into this category, ask yourself the following questions. Am I doing as much as I can? Think about that. Am I doing as much as I can? Am I doing as well as I can? Am I being as efficient as I can? Am I being as effective as I can? Because you know what? We weren't designed to just be comfortable, to be comfy, to be at ease, to just relax. No, we were designed for so much more. And we have that in each of us. And it all starts with the way we think. Are you comfortable in your thinking? Start thinking more. Think better. Think big. Think expansion. Think growth. Do something different. And it all starts now. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to hand you back to Henny.
Good. All right. Now I'm not muted. Thank you very much, Heather. That was very inspiring. It gave us a lot to think about. Comfortable is something that everybody loves, and you just threw it wide open to say, well, what is around it? While the rest of the panel is getting on screen, for all the online viewers, I'd like you to make use of the comment. Throw in some questions, throw in whatever you want to ask. I'll keep an eye on that as well, and I want to really pull you into the conversation, make you part of the talk. I think the easiest thing to do is to introduce the panel, but I'm going to do that by letting them introduce themselves. So the way that I'm sitting to my left is Mick. Mick, can I ask you to just in 30 seconds introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, Mick McQuillan tuning in from Ireland, and of course it's a pleasure to be here with you guys tonight. Thank you for having me.
All righty, then just below him I've got Glenn. Glenn, you are muted.
There we go. Sorry about that.
That's
All
better.
right, Glenys Jones from sunny South Africa, and thanks, Annie, for that. And Heather, that was really great, really inspiring. Thank you very much.
All right, and last but not least, Bosmore.
Thank you. I'm Basmo Munga from Lusaka in Zambia. Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is the panel that will join us. We will have some conversation right now. We've got one online viewer at this point in time. His name is Glenn McQuirk, and he says, "Great talk, Heather. I love the overall concept." Thank you, Glenn. Glad to see you on the other side. All righty, I think, Heather, there's so many things that stood out, but let me start asking the panel if each of them can just give that one thing, if they can sort of take something out of a powerful talk like that stood out for them. Mick, what was the key thing for you from what Heather shared with us? Mick, you there? Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you. No, it was a great talk by Heather, and of course she was talking about comfortable, and she was talking about those slippers being a good fit in that shirt, and of course I have one of those shirts too, Heather. You'll be pleased to know. I think most guys do, but I think the point is it fit for purpose? And I think when you're talking about fit for purpose, I think it can be your thinking. Is your thinking fit for purpose? Because sometimes we can, with our thoughts, we can just be treading water. We can just be doing the same thing over again. So, look, I think there's a huge discussion to be had here, and I'm excited to hear what everybody else has got to say.
Thank you very much. Glenn, your thoughts?
Thanks very much. I think one of the things that came out very strongly for me is the questions that Heather was asking. And I think it's so important, when we do start falling into these comfort zones and in this comfortable situation, we actually need to be asking these questions and making sure we're still on track in terms of our goals, in terms of our purpose, etc. So that for me was the most important one.
Perfect. Thank you. Bosmore?
Thank you. What caught my attention so much was when Heather mentioned that you need to revisit your purpose. Comfort is actually destructive. It's negative, as we always take it, that I'm comfortable, meaning I don't need any more growth. I don't need any more expansion. I just have to think at the same level I am. But I saw this as an answer when she said, revisit your purpose. Maybe the purpose is not right and it needs to be revisited. And that caught my attention.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I do agree with that. The gem for this week is diligence. And in the Map Cafe this morning, our conversation went around diligence. And I think the end result was diligence means that you need to do something every day. And I think that something every day ties back with what you were saying, Paulsmore. It's a question of making sure that you revisit your purpose every day and make sure that whatever you are doing is actually adding value, taking you in that direction. And it can happen more than once a day, but it needs to happen at least once a day. You can't just not follow your purpose for a day and then expect it to continue. Heather, I'm going to pull you in as well. The one thing that stood out for me really was you mentioned comfort a lot, but you also mentioned change. So I'm going to ask a question or make a statement, and then you guys can comment on that. Is comfort almost the opposite of change? Did you get that, Heather? Is comfort the opposite of change?
Yeah. I was waiting for. I would say yes, because you can be comfortably unhappy simply because you fear change. So I know people who have spent years in a job because they've done it for so many years, and they're not happy doing it, but they fear the change.
Okay, cool. I'm happy with that. Mick, your thoughts? comfort the opposite of change? Meek, you are muted.
Yes, I was on mute.
Yes.
But yeah, I suppose we all kind of listen to. We've all probably listened to somebody like Bob Proctor at certain times in our lives. When we're, you know, maybe got our backs against the wall and we're looking for some kind of inspiration or something. And Bob says that change is inevitable, and it is, and it's always changing. I think that when we're talking about being comfortable and change, I think you change when I think most of us change when we have to change, when we're forced into a change, whether it be a financial situation or something like this. I think many of us don't look at change as something that we can control. I think mostly we kind of look at it as something that happens to us or forced upon us. When really, I think that if you can be that change, you can literally be it by thinking it, believing it. In fact, it was interesting. I think I can't remember who it was who said it. Might have been even in this group. I think it was. Peter Darrell. I think we were on a call with him there the other week, and he was talking about weight loss, and he was talking about different things and getting in shape and things, and he said you've got to eat with the outcome in mind. And that is just an amazing thing to say, to think, because if you want to look and feel this kind of way, and you can think and feel that way at the same time, and then when you're eating with that vision in mind, with that outcome in mind. That is real change. I think that's real change. That's change. You're changing from the beginning of the change of the outcome. So I think that's kind of exciting. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't know whether those two things are the same, but I think they both lead to the same destination.
Okay, I'll touch base on it. Yes, you did answer the question for me. Happy with that. Glenn, your thoughts?
Okay, I actually 100% agree with Mick. It's for me. I think the only time comfort is really a good thing is if it's actually a goal that's been set to have a comfortable time, where you have a time of rest, or you is exactly what Heather spoke about. You get home from work and you want to have a bit of a comfort time, just a bit of a chill time. And I don't believe there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a good thing just to relax and just get rid of the stress and that type of thing. That's always a good thing. But change is inevitable, exactly what Mick spoke about. I think we need to go through this process, where we in this comfort zone, and then we tend to, before moving, we have this fear zone. And then when we actually start moving through that process, we actually start to learn, and then we grow. So there's this process again that takes place. And for me, I believe that process needs to be continuing all the time. We need to be continually learning and growing. And that comfort zone can be very dangerous. So that's my take.
So if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is comfort is good, but as long as there's purpose behind it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Got it. Passport, your take? Comfort versus change, is it opposite or the same thing?
For sure, I agree that it is opposite. Like Heather has put it, that change when we are comfortable, we may not like change, and no one for sure likes change. Much as we can say change, we cannot avoid it, but we don't like it. I was thinking about it. I say, this, for example, in this conversation, if you hear you just say, no, for a difference today, let us have this conversation while we're standing and not seated. I don't know how many will be comfortable with that, because we are used to doing it in this way. So we will resist that. Say, no. Let's continue the way we have been doing it, because that's how we are as human beings. But comfort for sure is not good. Change is inevitable, but a lot of times we resist change because we are used to the comfort zone. I'm used to reporting for work at 8, knocking off at 5 p.m., go for lunch at this. So any slight change from the normal, we don't like it. But meanwhile, the high performers, they like change. They invite change. Actually, we would say they are comfortable being uncomfortable. That can be my take on this one.
I like that. Being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I actually like that. That is something that's very interesting. Two comments quickly from my side. So the first one is, I've read it somewhere a long time ago, and it's stuck to mind. The only constant in this world is change,
Absolutely.
and that is something we need to embrace. If we stick to it. You also, Pasma, used an example in my job in IT. We've got what we call stand-up meetings every morning. It's a 15-minute meeting where everybody basically walks in, tells you what he did yesterday, what he's going to do today, and if there's any impediments. Um, and I think it's called a stand-up meeting for a reason. You stand there, people don't want to stand around for an hour, so they say what they need to say and they leave. So I think there's purpose to it. Uh, that is a change that it brought about from normal meetings, and it's actually a productive meeting. So if we're saying that to get out the comfort zone, we need to change, what is that magical thing that we need that will bring about the change? And let's go around again. Heather, I'll start with you. What is the one thing that you can do that will allow you to change and get you out the comfort zone? What is that one magical thing if you have to pick one?
I think you've got to acknowledge, first of all, that you are in the comfort zone. Without that acknowledgement of where you are, you're not going to realize the need to change anything, because a lot of people deceive themselves into thinking that they are not comfortable or not moving. So once you acknowledge it, and then you'll be able to start looking at where you can change, either small or big, depending on your personality and character.
Perfect. Happy with that.
So for me,
Mick?
acknowledgement is key.
Sorry.
You
Acknowledge.
can't. I know we talk about weight.
Happy. Thank you. It seems there's a bit of a
Acknowledgement.
delay, so I must just wait a little bit before I start talking. If Heather is still busy, she's still going to continue while before I start talking. So sorry, Heather. Cool. Acknowledgement. That's key. Mick, your magical thing?
Well, I think you've got to have a goal. You've got to have a desire, and it needs to be something that you really, really want. It needs to be something that, and to be honest, I think it starts. I think you can have a goal and you can have desire, but I think unless that you can combine that with a sense of not just purpose, but a personal vision, of yourself, of how you're going to be. That because you start out one way, but you finish another way. You're not the same person when you get there, and I think you have to have that. To have a good sense of who it is that you want to be. Now, that might not necessarily be your goal, but your goal might be something more material or something else. It could be to start your own business. It could be to change your job. It could even be a small goal. But I think you have to have a goal, and you have to have a plan of action. I remember when I was starting my business, we had a plan of action, and my plan was to go guns blazing. I was all over the place. And then I was talking to this brand manager, and he said, "Mike," he said, "guns blazing is fine." He says, "You just need to make sure you've got them all facing in the right direction, in the same direction." And that really hit home for me because I was spread so thin everywhere. But then when I kind of focused in on with a laser, we started to, make much more progress, much more quickly. So I think having a goal, having a plan, I think even having a people like this, a group of people like this that, that are like-minded, that are, not just positive thinkers, but positive feelers. They don't just think positive, they feel positive too. It makes a difference in people's lives. Like all of you guys here, you're all trying to help other people feel better about something that makes them feel bad. Trying to encourage them, support them, having an organization like this that can really help people and help them, get that laser focus on what that goal is so that they can become that person that they really want to become, whatever it is, in whatever walk of life it is. Doesn't really matter. Even if they're rubbish at rugby, they can get better at it, right? Doesn't matter.
That's true. Cool, cool. Uh, just to double check, you said you were from Ireland.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, cool. Now, when you started using rugby, I just thought, where is Ireland in the picture right now? But let's leave it there.
They're in
Glenn,
the airport. That's where they are. They're in the airport.
perfect. Glenn,
All right. Well, to start off, I think I'm going to go ditto for what Heather said and ditto again for what Mick said. Spot on track for that, because I think it starts with acknowledgement. If you don't acknowledge the fact that you're in the comfort zone in the first place, you're probably going to stay in the comfort zone. So, and then from there, for me, I think it is really about vision. You've got to have vision for the future. If you don't have that vision in the first place, there's nothing really to drive you. I really believe the vision is like leverage for you to drive you forward. I also believe that one should actually get people around you, at least 2 or 3 people around you, to actually support you in the situation, and people that are going to hold you accountable, because that change is quite difficult. It really is. If you've been in that comfort zone, especially if you've been in it for a period of time, it's really difficult to move out of that, because you're in such habits that you keep on falling back in those ways. And so I believe the support and the accountability is so important. And Mick mentioned that as well in terms of the people like on the group at the moment. I think the only other thing then, well, obviously you mentioned setting goals, very important as well. Short-term, long-term goals. And then for me, just another word that I wanted to bring in is the habits. And Heather mentioned this as well in her talk. It's about creating those new habits and those right habits. Yeah, I think that's it for me. I think that's pretty much it.
thank you very much. Bosmore?
Thank you. From the conversation, I think the beginning point in terms of changing should be the questions. If I were to ask myself the questions that Heather has put across, I think that this can be a foundation for starting or for coming out of the comfort zone. Am I doing as much? Am I doing as well? Am I efficient? Am I being am I effective? In other words, all these questions, the way I look at them, they are talking about the potential. Looking at what I am doing, is this my potential? Or I'm operating at 50% because my company requires this, but I know that even if I have met the goal, but this is not my potential. So if I were to look at that, in our local language, there's a word that we use, but literally translating it means you take yourself to court. When you take yourself to court, you are the prosecutor, you are the judge, you are the witness, you are everything. You stand trial. Are you being fair to yourself? Are you honest to yourself? Is this what you are supposed to do? I think some 20 years ago, I made a decision that I will only use warm water for bathing when I reach 100 years. And for 20 years, I've not used the warm water. So wherever we go, whether the geyser is working or not, I don't know. But I'll use warm water in Ireland because it's cold there. But I've not used that. It was uncomfortable at the beginning, but I'm now comfortable to it. I'm trying to look at what Heather mentioned, say we need to identify, to look at our habits. It's difficult if someone is to point out to me what you are doing is good, what you are doing is bad. I may not be comfortable with that. But when I look at my habits, which habits should I continue? Which habit supports my goals? And which habit I identify them, write them down, and stop them. And then also the skills. For me to reach my goal, which new skills should I learn? The world now has gone into AI, artificial intelligence. How am I doing there? Am I resisting that? No. I think this is for the young generation. For me, I'm not there. What new skill am I learning? So I see that as a basis for coming out of the comfort zone. When I ask myself those questions and the answer there should inform me that I need to come out of this comfort zone. These are hard questions, these are painful questions, but they are helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glenn M online also said everyone is changing, but the majority are changing to stay the same. They are conforming to the environment. few are changing to transform the world around them. That's also very true. And then FHL Life Changing has joined us. I don't know who FHL is, and he or she believes that self belief is also in there. What is very interesting for me, based on what you said right now, is Map for Life is a methodology. It's a lifestyle methodology, and step one is establish your position, or differently stated, acknowledgement. I think, if I listen to it, step number two in the methodology is really determine your destination, and I think that ties in with what you said, Mick, as well. To say, what is the goal? Where am I going? And you started talking about the planning, um, and I think the last or the fourth step in the methodology is really to take action, to take meaningful action. And I think you started touching on it, and we're starting to get into the space that I really get super excited about when we start talking habits. That's that. I've got a pet habit now. Let's not call it that. I love habits. For me, that is key to what's happening. So I think I liked what you said, and the wonderful thing is all of that is actually put together in the lifestyle methodology that we've got called Map for Life. It is there. So what we're saying is there. I'm gonna people that know me know I love my quotes as well. I picked up a quote this morning which I thought is very interesting, and I think it actually ties in with where we got to right now. It says that habits are simply reliable solutions to recurring problems in our environment. We've touched now on saying that habits is needed. We said that we need to get out the comfort zone, and to get out the comfort zone, I need to change. What is the tool that will take me there? And I think we touched on it, saying habits. So, is habits simply a reliable solution to the recurring problems in our environment? Can we see habits that powerful? Heather?
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. Something that we always addressing is, and which Peter Darrell addressed in his talk to us, was weight management. And you got to change certain habits. If your goal is to release a certain amount of weight by a particular date, you can't still have three Danish pastries for breakfast. That habit has to change. And there are certain things you can't just sit on the couch and get the bus everywhere or drive everywhere. You've actually got to do some exercise, so you've got to incorporate that new habit, a daily walk perhaps, or something else, in order to make the change. So once you've acknowledged where you are and you've decided where you want to go, you now analyze your habits and you do the whole, what must I stop, what must I start doing, what must I do less of, what must I do more of. So, yes, definitely, habits are so powerful.
Mick, your thoughts?
Like, obviously we all have habits, we all, good and bad, right? And it's not my job to judge anybody else, but people don't change their habits until there's a trigger event that takes place, and that trigger event is usually one that causes some kind of fear or something like this. For guys, it's usually a heart attack or something like that, some kind of trauma that takes place. you know Other habits, can be something that a piece of legislation that the government puts out might change your habit, might change your habit in your spending. Inflation could change a spending habit. So things, most people's habits are linked to their personal environment. And until you change your personal environment, and that can be your friends, it can be change. You need to change your friends. It could be anything. It could be the people that you work with. Maybe you need to change your job so you can get a better personal image. Maybe you're just a bum on the street or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You're down in the pub all the time every night with your mates. Well, maybe that's just a habit. Maybe you need to change your environment, your personal environment. So, habits, do they serve us? Yeah, they do. They serve us to protect us. Do you know what I mean? They keep us in that comfort zone, right? So unless you're willing to, you know, put your head above the parapet, and let your friends and your family try and pull you back in, because they want to try and protect you too. They see you changing, changing, you're not being, trying to be better. They just don't want to lose you. The truth is, when you make a big change in your life, and you change some your habits, you're going to lose some friends. I'm sorry, but you are, and it's not because you're becoming a bad person. You're becoming a better version of you, and you're going to get some new friends along the way. Friends that are going to encourage you and support you and coach you, and tell you if you're doing it right or if you're doing it wrong, and they're probably just a little bit further down that path than you. So, habits are important. They are, but you were talking about, Heather was talking about consider what you need to start doing, and I think that if you focus on those things that you need to do, those bad habits might just naturally drift away. Those habits are neurological pathways. They're little pathways that run through your brain. If you start doing more of the things that like Heather was talking about doing, and that could just be picking up a book, that could be just picking up Map for Life and reading a page or 10 pages a day, or filling in a couple of pages every day and creating a new habit. It takes 21 days to create a new habit, So, I would encourage anybody who's watching this is to give yourself, 30 days. Give yourself 30 days for trying something new, even if it's just a new thought pattern, whatever it is, to change that habit. And I think an old habit, an old pathway, because when you change a habit, you still have that old neurological pathway there. It's running. It's like a big green field. It's like rugby, right? You've got this big green pitch, and there's a guy running up and down the pitch all the time. He causes a groove in the grass, right? That's the neurological pathway. That guy's got a habit. Like South Africa have got a habit of winning right now. We'll see what happens, won't we? But we'll see. Doesn't matter. We'll see. We'll see. So anyway, you need to start running across the pitch this way. Do you know what I mean? And you'll create a new groove in the grass, and then all of a sudden this other one will start to grow over. So you need to create these new habits, new thought habits first. You got to think it. You got to feel it. You got to believe it. Believe it, and it will come true. And that's, I think, look, I think habits are important. I've got some really bad habits, but I've also got some really good ones too.
Before I continue to you, Glenn, the other Glenn online says, well said, Mick. All right.
He's talking about the rugby. That's what he's talking about. Just wait until I see Glenn.
All right. Glenn, your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to say it as well. Well said, Mick. No, you're 100% correct, Mick. It's very interesting. I've been involved with some people who have a certain business called Shadow Match, and they focus specifically on habits. And they talk about the exact same concept, the fact that you've got these neuropaths in your mind. You never get rid of your habits. You actually have to replace it with something else. But it never dies. It never goes away. It's always there. And again, it comes back to that comfort zone. If you tend to fall back in that comfort zone, you're probably going to end up falling back in those old habits again. So it is important in terms of that change. As far as the habits are concerned, the only other thing I wanted to add is Glenn McCook often uses this word habitat. And again, if I want to talk about the comfort zone, you mustn't habit at your comfort zone in the environment that you're in. You've got to change. Make sure the habit at where you habit at is at a different habit, a different place, a different environment, a different way of thinking. And I think that for me is quite important. There's a good scripture that speaks about bring every thought captive to the obedience of Jesus Christ, and we've got to think differently. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Can I just jump in? Sorry, I just want to add something else. Just as you were talking, something just popped to mind. Some of our habits, some of my habits aren't even my habits. They're not even mine. They're my environment habits. They're my relationship habits. They're my work habits. And I think that's like if you don't do something the way that you've been trained to do it, so you're going to make somebody else unhappy, right? So listen, this is complicated. Heather, what have you done? You've opened up a real can of worms here. I'm telling you, with this comfort conversation, I'm telling you.
Before I get to you, Passmore.
I think you've said enough. I think you've said enough, Mike. Let's let pass forever.
Yeah. Before we continue, yeah, Glenn put on something that you touched on right now, Mick, and also other Glenn. Glenn put on your habit take you to or keep you in your habitat. So it really touches on exactly what you said. Passmore, your thoughts?
Thank you so much. It's like Nick was speaking to me when he was talking about the grooves in terms of the neural paths that are formed in the brain. I was raised in the village, I farm setup. If you drive your animals on a certain place every day, they make a path. And at the end of a week or so, or at the end of the 30 days, you think that there was no grass there. It's just bare ground and it almost becomes like a road. So I was trying to look at the habits that as you form these new habits, they become part of you. You become used to them. But at the same time, when you stop using this path, the grass start growing slowly, slowly, until someone will think actually there was no path here. So the habits are also like Glenn suggested or mentioned that if you do something for 30 days, it becomes part of you. It, in other words, it goes in the subconscious. But the first thing that means now what we need is to be decided in the mind that I have to change this. And where we have got self positive talk, I have to change this. One of the habits I had to change a long time ago is watching TV. I rarely watch television. Maybe this year I've just watched it, maybe not more than 5 times. And at times when some family members challenge me, why don't you do this? I tell them, I've got one reason. I am preparing myself to be watched on TV. The people we watch on TV don't watch TV because they are busy to prepare what they want to tell us who watch TV. So that is a habit which was not easy. We immediately knock off, you go there. And one time I listened to a talk by Dr. Miles Monroe, and he says, what you do between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. is very crucial in your life. Then I looked at myself, what do I do this time? I watch TV. After watching TV, what do I work with? I watch TV, I don't even write any notes. I listen to news, I listen to any program. Then I say, but what am I getting to this? So I came to a point where I said, no, no, if I'm watching TV, there's a particular program I'm watching. I hear that there's a documentary that is coming tomorrow on business or such a talk, I'll go and listen to it. If the budget is being announced, I go there, I get a pen, I write notes, and I say, okay, from this, what am I going to do? In other words, we need to change habits, but changing habits needs a lot of self-discipline. Remember, we talked about being settled, being comfortable. Usually, the mind wants to go back to the easier route. So you can try to do something. Maybe let me read a book every week. You may read it, but the next week is let me just go back to the easier route. So as we form the new habits, we need to make sure that they stick, and then we live by, and we need a lot of self-discipline to maintain these new habits, and also being ready to lose friends and also to gain some friends. So the mind must be ready that as I pursue these new habits, one, chances of being misunderstood are there because in most cases we are controlled by the environment. What will people think about me? If they see me running, all of a sudden in the evening I run, I'm trying to jog, what will people think about me? So all those need to go away because I may not be able to explain to everyone what I'm doing, but I know my purpose that this is what I want to reach. I want to shed off some light. So because of that, I need this new habit. I do some exercise and I have to live by this habit by self-discipline. Thank you.
Thank you, Passmore. So, Glenn M put online the environment that you are avoiding could be the one that enables you to flourish, like a seed that becomes a forest. So I think it touches a little bit on what you said as well, Passmore. The other thing is I've heard it many times from Glenn as well. If I look at the word television, and you spoke about television, there's vision in it, but there's a tell in front of it. It is somebody else telling you their vision, and you spending time listening to somebody else's vision, where you could have spent the time doing something differently. And I read something where they say, what is the difference between time and money? You always know how much money you've got, but you never know how much time you've got. So you spoke about the 3 hours between 5 and 8. That is 3 hours that will actually grow a lot. And that once again brings me to a quote from James Clear. I'm busy reading a book called Atomic Habits right now. And he says habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. So if you listen to what you're saying there, 3 hours tonight becomes 6 hours, becomes 9, becomes almost now more than 1,000 hours for the year that you spend watching TV that could be spent on something else. It's going to probably make you a genius in the field that you're starting to work. I think we're almost out of time. So from the habits, somebody mentioned that as well, and I want to sort of semi-touch on that as well. Then, for us to change habits, something needs to trigger the habits to happen. And the one thing that I've learned is what you think is what drives everything. The way that I talk to myself, the way that I talk to people, I don't have money, I don't have this, I can't do that kind of thing. That I think is a good starting point to say if I want to change a habit, I need to start changing the way that I talk, because that is the way that I then program the subconscious mind and myself. And for a habit to change, I need to change my belief system and the way that I operate. So I think that's my question. Heather, your thoughts on that? How do you believe the way that you think and speak every day affects your the way that you think about habits and the way that you think about change?
Well, your words are your wand, isn't it? And your words come from your thoughts. Because if what's coming out of your mouth is what you've thought of at some point in your life, and self talk and self belief and self love are all very crucial to the growth of any person. Because whatever you tell yourself you can or you can't do, you're not going to be able to do. So it's so important that we need to be careful and to monitor. Initially, you have to monitor what you're saying and what you're thinking about. You're not going to automatically start thinking different. You got to catch yourself in the thought, nip it in the bud, and change the thought. Also, when you speak, when you catch yourself saying something that's not very complimentary to you, we must be very careful about what we say about others and to others, but sometimes we're not very careful about what we say to ourselves. So that's also very, very important, just to monitor ourselves initially until it becomes a habit.
Perfect, Nick.
What was the question again? Heather went on for ages. I'm only joking.
The question is how far the Springboks are going to win over the weekend.
Ah, go on, get out of it.
No, that wasn't the question. The question is your thoughts about our thoughts and the way that you speak affects your habits and then ultimately your change.
Well, Heather's absolutely right, in what she's saying there. And it reminds me of a Bruce Lee quote. I think I mentioned it to you before. And he said that words are like, spells. That's why they call it spelling. You should never say anything bad about yourself to yourself, because it's a little seed that you plant in your mind. It's a little limitation, and to be honest, I think that we're all capable of more. And I think the people, on this panel here, we're kind of preaching to the choir a little bit, because we probably know a lot of this stuff ourselves. How do we get this stuff, to a wider audience? In fact, it's not even that. It's how do we make it interesting to a wider audience where they want to learn about themselves. They want to learn that they're far more capable. They want to learn that they're more powerful and they're made of more, and they have this spark of creation inside them that they can achieve anything that they set their mind to. I believe that about me. I believe it about everybody on this panel here. But how do you get that message, to somebody else? Somebody that you're talking to in the street. I spoke to somebody in the street the other day. Do you know what she said to me? Oh, I don't like any of that kind of stuff. How do you change that? And this person is flat broke. They've got loads of time, no money, and they want loads of money, but they're not prepared to put in the time. How does that person change? How does that person make a change? We're all working on ourselves. So we're working on our habits constantly, analyzing ourselves. In fact, sometimes over analyzing ourselves to the state of paralysis, where you do nothing for a while until you get yourself back in order, back on track, So look, habits, comfort zone, this is all really, really important stuff. But, how do we get these little seeds out to our friends and neighbors? I think we do that through becoming a product of what we're talking about so that they can see, our own success, and that personal success doesn't have to be financial. It could be success in anything, just in just being a better version of you. One of my biggest successes in life is not being reactive. Someone would say something to me and I'd fly off the handle. I go crazy. I've got this red hair and I'd be throwing hammers at people and everything when I worked in construction. It'd be madness, right? But learning how to control that, is a successful step. How do we plant those little seeds for people so that they can just make themselves just a little bit better, every day, creating that new habit. And I think we've got to do it by walking the walk and not just talking the talk.
Perfect. Can I ask you a favor, Mick? Won't you just do this for me,
No.
please?
What? No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Okay, cool. Now, I just saw you volunteering to do a talk for us. I think you would be a very inspiring
Absolutely.
keynote
Absolutely.
speaker. So thank you for volunteering. All right, Glenn, your thoughts?
I just love your passion, Mick. Love it. Really great. Awesome. I'd like to bring that particular question back to the word comfortable. And again, to what Mick was talking about, that example of that particular person, that they're saying, they don't like that type of thing, they don't use that type of thing. I really believe that they're in a comfort zone. And they're in that comfortable situation where they're just happy where they are and they don't want to change anything. And it's, for me, it's actually such a dangerous position to be in. It really is. You just stagnate. And I often think of that concept of water stagnating, and it's just lying there, and it eventually starts really stinking. And that's not a pleasant sight and not a pleasant odor. And that's exactly what happens with people. They then become so negative and so distant from everything else around them that nothing works and nothing's going to be right. And so they tend to bring that across to other people as well. And it's just a snowball effect. So I think it is such an important aspect in terms of the self-talk and in terms of changing those thoughts. And then again, taking it a step further, but taking it further just from the mind and actually writing down. To me, it's such an important aspect to write things down and put it on paper and then step out into it and actually set the goals and move forward from there. I could go further, but I think that's pretty much it for me. I think it's such an important aspect.
Thank you very much. Passmore?
Thank you very much. When we are dealing with the mind, as human beings, we always want to change from outside inside. But real and effective change should be inside outside. If we draw a lesson from agriculture, if you want good fruits, you have to give the roots the necessary nutrients. When the roots are well fed, they will give a good fruit outside. So even us, we need to start settling in our minds. Like we have said, positive self-talk. One of the things that I have driven in my mind, which took time to settle, one is that on this planet Earth, there is no human being who is more important than me. And I'm also not more important than another human being. Whatever position they have, whatever wealth they have, they are not more important than me. And I'm also not more important than another person. We are all human beings. And that the only thing that I can fail to achieve on this planet Earth is what I don't want to achieve. The only thing that I cannot achieve is what I don't want to achieve. I talk to myself. Like we find in the Bible, David I draw a lot of lessons from him. When you read Psalms, he would say, my soul, why are you not happy? He's talking to himself. We are living in a world that is busy, that may not even notice you, that may not notice what struggles you are facing, but you can talk to yourself. I can climb this mountain. I can go to the top. No one can stop me apart from myself. So we need to start settling in our minds. I want to do this. I must do it. It is my responsibility. I've got a purpose on earth. Like we say in Map for Life, I've got a purpose on which I have to fulfill on this earth. And it's me to fulfill it. God designed me to do this and not another person. The other person has got their part to play. I have got my part to play. If I don't play my part, the world will be denied of that part which I'm supposed to play. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I see we're almost out of time, so I'm giving the panel a heads up. You've got 30 seconds to get your closing thoughts there. Delmarie was online with us as well. Delmarie Mostert. She said, "It has been a pleasure attending tonight. Thank you. I do need to get back on track with my healthier business habits." So well done, panel. You've inspired somebody. And then Mr. Glenn puts on the stagnant pond becomes lifeless. Be the change you want to see in the world. And then last, self-affirmations are key. Remember that. Alrighty, so we've got 2 minutes left before the time is up. Heather, your closing thoughts.
Nothing really. Lovely talks tonight. Thank you for all your contribution. And I'm encouraged by all the advice that we've given to people about how to move out of the comfort zone, because that is really key.
Thank you very much. Mick?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Heather, really, more than anything else, for inspiring such a good conversation. Look, it's really got me thinking, and there's so many more things. Every time somebody says something, I'm thinking, yeah, that's just brilliant. So yeah, it's a really, really big thing. So Heather, I really want to hear more from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn?
Okay, maybe I can just end with 2 quotes. The one I wrote is, outside of the comfort zone is where the magic happens. I don't necessarily like the word magic, but that's true. It's just amazing what can happen outside of that comfort zone. The second one is, life begins at the end of your comfort zone, which is, to me, so important as well. That having that abundant life, that's what we aspire to, and that's what we should be doing. So thank you, Heather. Lovely talk and great chatting tonight. Really been a great panel. Thank you very much for your inputs. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Pasmo?
Thank you very much, Heather and Hen and all the panelists. I can just summarize. I can only mention in the closing on my part is that just like a chick, when it breaks the egg, then it comes out of the comfort zone. That's when we have got a chicken outside. So even as we need to find ways and means of coming out of the comfort zone and also offer our full potential. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I close, Glenn is very adamant that I need to say this. Mick, I need to remind you that Ireland did win South Africa.
Hold on. Hold on 1 second.
From my side, Heather, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your talk. It was really inspiring. I want to close with one thing. You spoke about the 4 syllables, but if I look at the word comfortable, I can break it actually into comfort and able. So let us not be comfort able. Let's all be change able. Let's go be changeable and not comfortable. Okay. Thank you very, very much for the panel. It was very nice talking to you. To all the listeners online, thank you so much. Go out and be mapped. Thank you very much and have a pleasant evening.
Thank
You're back, Pasmo. You can still say what you want to say.
Thank you. Otherwise, I for sure it was a powerful talk, life-changing talk. I was writing notes, and for sure, I'm sure even